Welcome. And I'm so delighted to be joined today by the author of Daily Bread, Antoinette Truglio Martin, and the Junior Bookworms. So a little bit about the book before we get started. I'm going to read the back. Don't we all read the back? It is 1911. Crammed into a 3-room flat in a Mott Street tenement, the large Truglio family needs all the help they can muster. Spunky songbird Lily wants to help by baking daily bread at the bakery, like big sister Margaret. But Margaret says Lily is just a little kid, and there is more to baking daily bread than height and an artist's heart. Lily learns to navigate in a grown-up world when facing bullies, disasters, dotty bakers, and treacherous streets to cross by herself. So please welcome author Antoinette Truglio Martin. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. This is very exciting.
Oh, very exciting. And we have quite the panel here, the Junior Bookworms, who have all read this book and are avid readers, and some writers in our group as well. I am so thrilled to have all of you. So let's meet all of you. I'm going to go around what I see on my screen, starting with Leandra.
Hello, my name is Leandra Mello.
And what grade are you in, Leandra?
I'm in 6th grade, and the book series I'd like to recommend is The School for Good and Evil.
Oh, that's a great series to recommend, The School for Good and Evil. Oh, I love that. I had asked everyone to recommend something. I mean, besides our feature book, of course. Thanks, Leandra. Liam.
Hi, my name is Liam. I'm in 6th grade, and one book series I would recommend is definitely the Big Nate series.
Oh, that's
Big Nate. Yep, classic.
I love Big Nate, absolutely. Ryan.
My name is Ryan Wood. I am in the 6th grade, and a book series I would like to recommend is the Admiral Thrawn series.
Oh, I didn't know that one. I'm going to have to check that one out. Thank you.
It's Star Wars related.
Oh, well, then I'm definitely going to like
I'm going to look back.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to like that a lot.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Allie Berry, and I'm in 6th grade, and I'm in the middle, and I've been really loving the Harry Potter series. I've read them. I've been reading them since like the beginning of the year, and they've been really, really good.
Oh, that's a fabulous series. Just do me a favor, don't drop one on your foot, because the further you get on, the bigger those books get.
Yeah.
No broken toes from you, yes. That last one is like a huge thing. Fantastic. I was fortunate enough to go to London last year and got to see the train platform at King's Cross Station.
Oh,
That's really cool.
Yeah, super cool. Oliver, tell us about you.
Well, my name is Oliver Fiore, and I'm in 6th grade. And a book that I really liked was Hatchet by Gary Paulson.
Oh, that's a really good one. Good decision. Absolutely. My son loved that one. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Alex?
Hi, my name is Alex Menachino. I'm in 7th grade, and one of my all-time favorite book series is Dork Diaries.
Fun stuff.
Very fun. Yeah.
Absolutely fun stuff. And Katie? Katie?
Oh, where'd you go?
Katie, can you hear me?
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm in 5th grade. My guy.
Hi, Katie. What grade are you in?
I'm in 5th grade.
Okay, and what is your favorite book or book series that you'd like to recommend?
It's just a book, and I recommend My Louisiana Sky.
Ooh, very nice. Well,
Very good.
I'm sure every librarian in the world is loving these book recommendations straight from the readers. Awesome. Well, today we're talking about Daily Bread, which is historical fiction set in 1911. I must admit, before reading this book myself, I didn't know as much about 1911 as I should have. But now I do. I know about the food, the setting, the people, what they did. That's what I love about historical fiction, is I actually get to learn things. So Antoinette, get us started a little bit on Daily Bread.
Okay, well, Daily Bread is an almost true story. My grandmother was a great storyteller, and she had a lot of stories about life in Brooklyn, but she had a few that described her childhood in the tenements of New York City. She and her mother came over on a boat after a 3-week voyage and landed on in New York City on Ellis Island, and was picked up by her father, who was waiting for them. And she grew up in the city tenements up until she was about 17 or 18 years old. So she had several interesting stories, and it's, you know, to me it was amazing that, you know, even though there was a lot of poverty and a lot of danger and everything, kids are kids, and it was all about finding a way to play and finding a way to make friends, and even though the friends were different, and her mother and father liked to keep them with their people, you know, spoke Sicilian and stayed with the Sicilian customs and did what they were told. But you know, they would go to school and they meet other children from different cultures and different backgrounds, and everyone spoke English. And you know, so it was this juxtaposition that the kids were growing up with. It seemed like it was so much more vivid for them as growing up as children like this, rather than experiencing it as an adult. So, but also the time was just so interesting. You know, there's not much technology. Cars were just coming on the road. There was this whole process of getting food every day because there was no refrigeration, getting heat. Many families worked in their tenement apartments that were very small and tight. There was really no feeling that you had your own room or your own space. In fact, you couldn't even use the bathroom because you were sharing it with 3 other families on the same floor. So there's no such thing as privacy or secrecy. So you really had to be quite clever to, you know, to be a kid back then. So she did have the story about baking bread with the Jewish baker who allowed children to come, and he and his wife did not have children. So they were probably inviting children in hopes of finding an apprentice. And, but, you know, some children stayed, but most didn't. And but she baked bread for them for several years, and it was one of those things that she really brought her joy in such a bleak type of childhood. But in writing this, I had to do so much fun research, and I think the research was the best part. I went into the city, I walked the streets, I visited the Tenement Museum, which is a marvelous place to visit. I looked into basement steps, but nobody would let me go down them though. You know, I count, you know, I thought maybe it's 7 or 8. There were actually 10 steps in all those basement steps. And, you know, I talked to my older uncles and aunts and my parents, you know, on the way things were built back then, the way heat was kept in the house, what type of peddlers would come down the street, that sort of thing. So the research, I think, gave this story, even though it was a fiction, not a true story, it gave it authenticity. Yes. And as a writer, No matter what world you create, it could be science fiction or fantasy, historical fiction, whatever. The world that you create has to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to do historical fiction, you have to make it ring true, because you get details wrong, then your readers can't really believe your story.
Oh, I am so glad that you said that, especially because I know we have some aspiring writers here
Mhm.
on our group. And yes, if you're writing about the 1800s and someone whips out a cell phone in your story to have a conversation, that's not going to do it. But
Right.
even, and I'm so glad you mentioned this, even if you create the entire thing in your head, whether it's futuristic or fantasy or Harry Potter or anything like that, you have to make sure that everything is consistent and that it all works. When J.K. Rowling was writing Harry Potter, she would have to keep notebooks full. Like if she said that this particular spell would make someone have a plant grow out of their hand, well, then in book 5, when they say that spell, it has to have the same effect. It all has to be consistent. So even if you are going to suspend the laws of physics in your book, you have to do it across the board. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, and that's kind of the fun and the challenge when you write fiction.
Yeah.
So for that, it was a lot of fun. And then I found, 1911 was a turning point in American history, and I thought, gee, I really didn't know that much about it, and I'm realizing that it's really not taught. It's kind of a period in time. We had the Civil War, and then there was World War II.
Right.
World War One. So there was a lot of time that went by, and there was a lot of big changes that happened in America. Right. And I think it's also where so many Americans have come to this country and began their American stories around this time. So your grandparents and great grandparents, probably had some sort of connection with this period in time in American history. And I find that fascinating.
Too many people kind of skipped this period. Our history books. I remember now. Of course, I went to school 1,000 years ago, but it was kind of like they went from the Civil War to World War I.
Right. That seems to be.
Yeah.
Seems to be. So I'm hoping that that maybe we can enrich all our people a little bit on the history, and it kind of explains so much.
Right.
In doing this. The other thing about Daily Bread is being able to collect stories from family, and being able to kind of query them a little bit, like what games did you play, what were they called, and kids all kind of play the same. They all play tag, they all have a ball, but rules change, and names of the games change. So that's kind of fun to discover, how the games were played back when, your great grandparents were kids.
Now, for our young readers here, do you have a special part that sticks in your mind as we're talking? Like one part of the book that sticks in your mind, maybe for good reasons, or maybe it wasn't something that you really liked? There are things in there that I remember reading thinking, that was kind of scary. And that's why it sticks in my mind. But how about you? Who has a favorite part, or, maybe a part that you remember for a sad reason? Allie?
Well, my favorite part was when Lily and Donnie were going to deliver the Not Surprises in one of the tenements, and they bumped into the cantor, and he was just so welcoming and nice, and he tried the Not Surprise, and he really liked them and ordered a lot and gave the business, a lot of popularity and really helped them, because I know they were struggling. And I don't know, that just really stuck in my mind because it made me happy that they were, finally moving along.
And she's making me hungry now too, Allie. Yeah. Oliver?
Yeah.
Well, I liked when Big John's attitude finally changed, and he was a lot nicer when he was helping Lily in the alley, when he like chased away the two bullies.
That was one of the scenes that sticks in my mind, is the scene in the alley. Yeah, that's probably the one that I think of first. I'm so glad you mentioned that one. Alex?
Going along with the topic of Big John, I really liked when Margaret kind of like stuck up for her sister against Big John, stuck up for herself, because that sticks out a lot, because, you know, she's a girl, and throughout the book, there's little hints that mention like girls aren't supposed to use their fists, and like they're easy to be made fun of because they're smaller than the bigger bullies are. And I just thought that was really cool, because everybody said she couldn't, and then she did.
And she did.
She did, yeah.
Leandra?
My favorite part has to be when Margaret tells Lily about, like, makes her swear on the secret, because it reminds me a lot of my relationship with my younger sister.
Oh, tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing, you know, sisters keep secrets, right? No matter what the generation is, what year it is.
It could be 1911 or 2020. Sisters. You and your sister have secrets? We won't tell.
Not in that part. Not in that part, but in the fact that she trusted her little sister enough to share these things with her.
Gotcha. Oh, very, very nice. Very, very nice. So, Antoinette, are these parts that you, really, really loved as you were writing? Did you know that they were going to be someone's favorite?
Yeah, I was really very conscious while writing about how the sisters behave towards each other. You know, big sisters always, you know, I'm the big sister in my family, and always had tag-alongs with me, and that can get annoying. But at the same time, you know, you're the protector. You're showing them how to do things, and you know, in the end, you know, a sister or younger brother is the person who's going to be your best friend, and the one that you can count on. And I wanted to have that kind of transition, you know, for both Margaret and Lily. And so that was a big conscious effort there. And also to the thing about girl power, you know, giving girls some credit, you know, for being smart, and for being just as clever, and maybe not as strong, but they can defend themselves. You know, they do have that ability.
Absolutely. There was a lot in the book that, like you said, that things haven't changed. Things are exactly the same in many ways. And then there are some things that are very, very different today. What's something in the book that's so different that we're nothing like that anymore? Alex?
There was one part I kind of forgot. Oh, wait, no, never mind. I remember now. Miss Goldberg went to the Mott Street tenement that Lily and her family were living in to ask the mother for the jars of jam to make the not surprises. And I was surprised that that she only charged $1 per jar. Like, usually a jar of jelly today is like a lot more money than that.
That's for sure. That's for sure. That's one thing that's definitely changed. The value of money.
Yeah, of course, the food.
Absolutely. Leanne?
In the factory, the large fires and locked doors, that stuff doesn't happen, at least in America today.
No, you're absolutely right. And it doesn't happen because of that fire. That fire changed a lot of the laws and regulations having to do with factories and workers, and a whole lot of things have changed in this country because of that fire. It's terrible that it happened, but it really made a big, big difference.
So that really happened in real life then?
Yes, it did. That was a big piece of history
It is an absolute big piece of history. If you go downtown in Manhattan, you'll see exactly where it happened. I mean, they cleaned up the ashes and all, of course, but it really changed the working conditions of people. Now we have rules like every door has to have 2 exits, and windows have to have fire escapes on them, and every single building has to have, staircases and exits. All of those laws were passed because of that fire. So it's an absolute historical thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Allie?
Yeah, I have a thing to add about like things that are very different, but I also have a connection with what Leandra said. Yeah, like in today we read a book in class about child labor and like how along like 100 years ago they didn't have a lot of rights, and children would be working, and that just kind of reminded me of that story. But then also a thing that's super different now is that there's a lot of chores that the children had to do that we don't have to do anymore. Like one stood out in particular, like Margaret every day would have to bring up the buckets of coal to heat their house and, cook on. And like now, we have machinery to do that. We have, heaters and electric cookers. But that stood out to me in particular because we wouldn't even like think of that, it's so different because they had to do so many other things because they don't have as much like modern technology as we do have now. So
and like Andrew said, we here in America don't do those things, but there are places still in around the world that kids that are your age are doing that kind of heavy manual labor, and unfortunately, like Leandra said, are still getting hurt in those kinds of factory fires because they don't have the types of laws that we do here.
Yeah.
It does happen. Oliver?
Well, like back to the money thing, I remember when Connie was going to work at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, and she said it was $6 a week. Now it's like a few $1,000s a week.
Hopefully a little better than $6 a week. When you break it down, it's like $1 a day.
Yeah.
And
imagine.
They were long hours. They were 10-hour days. And if you used, and you had to bring your own scissors, you had to bring your own equipment, or else you had to buy them. The operators, my grandmother did go to work when she was 12, and she worked in the factories. She became a dressmaker, but when she first learned to work the machines and tear out seams and everything, if she lost her scissors or if she broke a needle, she had to buy it from the foreman. So there was a lot of inequity.
Right. So even the $1 a day, she might have had to spend 25 cents of it on new thread or something.
Right. So it's very different now. Very different, and it's because of that history. Labor laws and protection for children, the value of education for immigrants and for all children came to life during that period of time.
Absolutely.
Really, you would think that of course everybody should learn to read, and of course everybody should know how to add, at least so you can pay the grocer, but that wasn't the case always.
Exactly. Ryan?
Nowadays, minimum wage per hour is $12 an hour. At least
$12 an hour, and they were making $6 a week. What a difference. Good for you. Thanks, Ryan. Allie?
Yeah, that talk about like the education really sparked a thought that Connie was going to work in a factory when she was like 11, 12, and the book we read in class, like children were working in factories when they were like 5, and like Connie was working in a factory and Margaret was being pushed to work in a factory, and they were only like 11 and 12. Like now you go to school until you're like 18 plus college. Like they're being expected to work in a factory when they're our age. Like that's really
And
weird.
not only do you go to school, but the law has changed. So now legally you have to be in school until the end of high school. That's pretty much our law.
Yeah, but unfortunately, like things like this that happened a long time ago still happen in other countries, like you were saying. Like still now in other countries, children are working in places like factories when they're our age. So that's really sad.
It does happen. Leandra?
Something else that's really different is that their mother slapped Margaret, which wouldn't be allowed now.
You know, that's very true, and I really struggled with putting that little scene in, because I did want the mother to be quite impatient and quite exasperated with, you know, the way her living situation is, and taking care of her daughters and making sure her daughters were safe. And now she's going to have another baby, and being afraid that her husband might not come home. You know, so she's really on a tight rope herself. And I could have had her hollering more and being verbally abusive, but I think for the time, you know, children were smacked.
Yes.
You know, they got a spank. You know, so I think for that, and I actually I did ask my aunts and my uncles and my parents, you know, what do you think? Do you think this mother would be teaching them a lesson and putting them in timeout, or and my mother was like, no.
No, your mother
You're
said.
gonna get a smack in the head for that one.
Well, that's part of your good research, because if you're going to write about this time period, we need to know about it.
Right. Yeah. I'm wondering if you know, I can't see everybody's hands here in what I have. Is anybody else who's?
Alex was raising her hand. Go ahead.
Yes, Alex.
I also saw that the discipline in school was a lot different than it is now, because when Lily went to school, her teacher, Miss Tripty, slapped her on the hand for talking in class. And if you were talking in class today, like maybe you would stay in like 5 minutes for recess, something like that.
Right.
Lots of changes. Well, that's one of the things I love about a book like yours, Antoinette, and historical fiction in general. You know, when we learn about history in school, we learn about names and dates and wars, right? That's, you know, when I was in school, we would learn about who the general was and who won the war, and that was about it. But we didn't really know about the families and the smacking and and the cooking and the bullies and how girls were treated, and we didn't know any of those things, because you're just learning that in 1865 who the president was and the Emancipation Proclamation or whatever it might be. So a book like this really gets me into the time period and gets me to learn a lot more about what people were like, especially with all that great research that went on. Allie, you have something?
Oh no, I was just.
Leandra.
This reminds me of another book we read in 5th grade called Midnight Rider, which showed a lot more of like inner than just what is you'd read in a textbook.
That's true. Yeah, and also like Esperanza's Rising, that dealt with that there was that Mexican War, and this wealthy family winds up being migrant workers in California and dealing with the labor laws then, and that was in the 40s. So you know, all and how it affects families and how it affects you know, children and how they interact with each other and grow up. So you know, it's human nature to take what has been dealt you and use it and it becomes part of you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, but also, with kids, again, they're playful. They seek out play in so many ways. And I'm kind of wondering, did anybody catch what a few of the games were in the book? Like Patsy, did you catch what familiar game that could be?
Anybody know? Alex?
Could have been patty cake or something like that.
Something like patty
sounds-
cake. Yeah, it was really like a hopscotch
Okay.
game. Yeah, yeah, and the way they well, I didn't have a scene with it, but there was reference to the handball games
Mm.
in the parks, and apparently that was a big social thing for boys to go to the park and play handball instead of playing marbles
Right.
in the corner alleys.
Well, they certainly didn't have PlayStation, did they?
No, they didn't have any of that. They had to kind of sneak in, kind of sneak about when they weren't, doing their chores or expected to do something,
Right.
and to get to the park and play a game
They
with
didn't
other
have that
boys.
much time. Their
Right.
days were much fuller.
Right, right.
All the things that they were doing. Heck, just waiting online for that bathroom, like you said, because there were 3 families.
3 other families there. Yeah, can't imagine.
I can't imagine either. Most people have more than one bathroom in their house at this point. Just for your own family, right? Ryan,
We have 4 bathrooms in
you
our
have
house.
4 bathrooms. And how many people in your house, Ryan?
We have 5 people.
5 people and 4 bathrooms. So
And no waiting.
worst case scenario, maybe one person has to wait online for a minute.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that only happens rarely, I'm sure.
It's a lot of bathroom cleaning.
Yeah. I was also wondering if you had caught any of the slang in the dialogues, like the word keen.
Oh, we got some slang listeners here. Alex?
Did anybody catch what that might have meant?
I was just gonna say that I saw that Donnie was using like shortening his words a lot
Yes.
and stuff like that. Like I noticed that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Allie?
Yeah, keen, I am pretty sure it means like I don't know, like nice and caring, because like in the context I remember Lily saying Mrs. Goldberg is so keen after Connie was saying like she's kind of ditzy and like weird.
Right.
But
Right. They called her Dottie.
Yes.
but
It's another slang.
Lily really liked Mrs. Goldberg, so she was like, well, she's so keen, like she's so nice and understanding and like a mother. So
Yeah. A sweet person.
Antoinette, how do you find out? You were talking about research earlier, and you were talking about going downtown and the Tenement Museum and checking things out and reading lots of books. How do you find out that they said Keen and Dottie?
There's actually a website. There's actually a website on American slang, and the words that you might say in 1930 as opposed to now, like daddy-o or or cool. The word cool was not used in 1920. So.
Right. And I get that, because even our own words, don't we have words that we used just a few years ago and now they're kind of passé? Alex?
Yeah.
I have a question. This isn't about slang, but it like passed my mind a few times while reading. Donnie's face, it was described as like half of it was drooping, and I just wondered if there was like a backstory or if there was any reasoning to that decision.
Right. There was he had like a paralysis on half his face because remember when he talked with Lily Lily wondered why he was friends with Big John, and John had rescued him from a gang of boys when he was younger, but he was still beaten up pretty badly, and was taken to the sisters, which is going to be part of book 2. And so he had like an injury, like a brain injury that made his face droop.
Wow.
So I wanted him to be a little rougher looking, although he was kind of scrawny and small as compared to John, but with a good heart, despite how he looked.
Ryan, did I see your hand up?
No.
Okay. Just want to make sure I catch everybody.
Yeah. Getting the backstories of characters is part of the writing process, even though it might not be in the story. I had to come up with, why is Big John this nasty, and why are the Goldbergs so dotty and weird, and they're not really bakers. What happened with that? And you tend to get lost in a rabbit hole, coming up with a scenario, coming up with reasons, and that could take a whole book. The Goldberg story could be, a whole book. The Coming to America, the mother and Margaret coming to America. That's another book. But
You
so
better
have to
write then.
yeah, so it's a matter of kind of putting them in without it being an information dump, and weaving it into the story, and so it almost becomes little tidbits of information as part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So
I think writing a backstory is definitely like my favorite part of writing a story.
yeah,
Characters, you can just be so creative.
Me too.
yeah,
I know that with
that's a lot of fun. And but then the thing to know is what not to put in your book right now.
Yeah.
But it's never wasted. No matter what you write, it's never wasted. You had to get that down. You had to be able to see it on paper and know where this person has come from, so you can have that person move forward, even if it's a secondary character or tertiary character. Everybody has a story.
That's very true. And like you said, even if that story doesn't end up in the book, you as the author are better for knowing what that story is, and it will influence your writing.
Mm-hmm. And you never know where it will go one day.
Maybe there'll be a sequel or a sidebar, or I'm going to hope that she's going to write 5 more books now that I hear about all this backstory.
And let me see, there was something I wanted to ask the kids. With the Goldbergs, did you find them a believable characters? When they were having trouble with the bakery because they really weren't bakers, and the explanation as to what had happened to them, did that seem like a believable thing to you, Leandra?
In some ways, it was believable, like
Mhm.
the Russians storming the area,
Mhm.
trying to kill Miss Goldberg, them coming to America because of tickets. That part is all believable. However, I don't know if that much damage and that much almost craziness would have come to Miss Goldberg.
Okay. Good point. Good point.
Alex?
One thing I want to point out regarding Miss Goldberg is we find out why she was staring into darkness, but there's kind of like that spot in your mind that's like, why was she staring out into the darkness? Like, we know the backstory behind what happened with her husband and her, but why was she just sitting there staring out into the darkness? Like, was she thinking? Like, that's that one question I had about the story while I was reading.
Yeah, that's a form of mental illness, actually, to
Oh.
be so depressed that the person is almost comatose. So it's a yeah, it's a form of mental illness born from usually from trauma.
Oh, okay. In other news, I thought that the part did seem very believable, but I had to read it again because there was just a lot going on there.
Right, right.
And then when I read it again, I noticed that a lot of the stuff that happened to the Goldbergs, like in the beginning of the story, was being all tied together, and that felt like a sigh of relief almost, because I was like, well, what's gonna happen? What happened to them here and there? And I think it was just like a sigh of relief, like, okay, now I know what happened with them, and we can figure out something else. So it definitely gave me a lot of closure with that, and I thought it was really believable, actually.
Great, very good. Liam.
I thought it was really believable because I know that like the story they're from Russia. They were forced because of the Cossacks, and they went out. My family, most of my family, I have some from Armenia and I have some from Ireland that went to New York. Yeah. So the only part I think that I think it was all believable.
It worked for you.
Yeah.
Great, great. Well, oh, is there someone else?
Yep, Katie.
Oh, look at that. Katie.
I think it was like pretty believable because like what was happening like back then, it kind of like makes sense for that to happen too. So
Great.
Okay, Allie.
I definitely thought it was believable because like after it happened, I was kind of like I wasn't really expecting it, and I definitely thought it was believable. And like if when Miss Goldberg was acting like all nice and people would like call her Dottie, she kind of reminded me of like Mrs. Weasley from Harry Potter because she was just kind of like that loving person that cared for you and wanted you to be happy. Like she helped Lily with her stretches and measuring her and wanting her to bake and be tall enough to bake. And I think she just really wanted a kid, and Lily was kind of like that child figure for her. And I think she really likes that and wanted to help her and love her and just care for her. So
Great.
Ryan?
Oh, good.
Ryan.
Ryan.
I kind of think that it wasn't so believable, and it feels like Mrs. Goldberg is more of a fictional character.
Okay.
Because it's a very big string of bad luck. Oh, I almost got killed at a theater, and I went to a small town. Oh, I was out on a walk in the woods, and my town blew up. Hey, look, I found a lockbox full of money and passports. I'm going to America and gonna buy some bake.
Well, now, Antoinette, we know who our cynic is that we got to run storyline.
Okay, no, you know what? You need that. You need that because it has that's all part of the process. Well, the story ended with the tragedy at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. But then there's some good news for the Taglia family. Book 2 is in the works, and I'm kind of wondering what would you like to see happen, or what questions would you like answered?
That's a great question, Leandra.
I think if there was a way to help Miss Goldberg get over the trauma would be nice.
Okay.
Good. Liam?
I would kind of want the baby character to be introduced.
Okay, something about the baby.
Okay.
Yeah, I got something planned for that.
Ryan?
I would like to see the characters during World War I and see what hardships they would have during that time.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if I'm going to go that far. I'm going to stay in 1911.
Okay.
A lot of history is still happening.
Or 1912, the Titanic.
Alex?
I would like to see probably like what's gonna happen to Connie's family and how they feel. And also, I remember Antoinette saying something to me about baseball.
Yes. Okay.
So
Remembers that. All right, we'll keep that a secret for the moment. Katie?
Like I would like to know like what like Margaret's like futures and like what she's gonna end up like doing and like what her family's gonna end up doing.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Sounds good. Oliver?
Well, I'd like to see what happens to like the dad if he goes back to the docks,
Mhm.
or if like he keeps getting like attacked by those guys or something.
Okay.
Fabulous.
Well, with Betta, I think there could be like a backstory with her, like
Oh.
how she got like sick in the first place.
Mhm. Okay. That's a good point.
Sounds good. Katie?
Like for Betta, like I would like to hear like like what would she like to do if like she wasn't sick or like whatever like she would do.
Okay. Good. Good. Alex.
did they mention what the name of the sickness that Betta had was?
No, she's just fragile and frail. And apparently a lot of children did suffer from terrible migraine headaches and health issues because the environment was just not healthy.
And also, I have something to say about Tony. I feel like that Tony had a great relationship with the family.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I forget who said this, but he was kind of like a side character. Like I feel like he should have had more of like a part played in this.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to get Tony in there more. Oliver.
I totally forgot what I was gonna say.
Allie?
I just remembered this, but I was thinking about Aaron, the cousin or like nephew, I'm pretty sure, of Mrs. Goldberg and Mr. Goldberg. But he seemed like a nice character. He wasn't ever mean, but I kind of feel like he was just there. He wasn't really like interfering or had any like addition, like wasn't really doing anything. So I think more if Aaron was included a lot more, it could add a bit
Okay.
backstory for him.
Despite his disabilities.
Yeah.
Boy, you're getting a lot of homework here, Antoinette.
No, this is excellent. This is what I need to know.
Absolutely. Katie?
And like for Tony, like he was like off to like the side a lot, but like maybe like something about his family or like his background, something like that.
Great.
Yeah.
And Leandra?
I feel like we should also see the youngest sister.
Gigi.
Gigi, her personality grow a bit more because right now she's just viewed as the needy younger sibling that's just kind of there.
Yeah, she's going to have to grow up quick because they all have to grow up quick there.
Yep. They do.
Right?
They do. Alex?
Okay.
Now this is just me personally when I'm reading a story, but because I always look for this, I saw that the relationship between Betta and Tony was like, kind of like on the fence a little bit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that a lot. Anybody that knows me knows that I love stuff like that. So I'd like to see that grow a little bit more.
Okay.
Good. Oliver?
That's just me.
I think with Betta, wasn't there like huge polio outbreaks back then?
Yes, there was all kinds of, there was tuberculosis and cholera. I mean, it was everything. It's amazing people survived as they did. But,
You know,
We didn't go extinct.
nothing.
yeah. So it was very common for, children not to survive.
Hmm.
And it was, so if you had someone a little weak, you were going to have to really work hard to manage it. So, and with what little resources you had. But Betta's plight is going to be addressed in book 2.
Well, we can't wait for that book 2 to come out, man. That's what we're excited about. That's for sure.
Okay. One last question I needed to ask. You guys are, you would read middle grade, maybe beginning YA novels. Was the protagonist Lily too young of a character for you, or did that not seem to matter?
I think if she was older, nothing would really like change or anything.
Okay.
I think it was nice that she was younger because, like I said before, throughout the book, you could really see her mature and like learn from Margaret. Because I remember there was a time when Margaret wasn't home, like she was taking up the buckets of coal, and she was like doing more work in the bakery, baking bread, and I definitely liked that. So I think it was nice that she started out young because you could definitely see her progress and mature.
Katie?
I like that she started out young because it shows like if Margaret is ever gonna like change or like go to like a different place or like when she gets older, Lily can always take her spot. But like if if Lily was like older, like all they would have was like Gigi and like the baby that would come, so that would take a while. So
Right. Okay. Good point. Alex.
Oh my god, I lost it. Hold on.
Hey, when that happens.
Yeah.
It happens. It's
All right. Well, this was excellent.
fabulous.
Oh wait, I remember now.
Excellent discussion.
I remember now.
Very
I was
proud.
gonna
Oh,
say
what is
that
it, Alex?
I like that Lily was young because, and that she had an older sister because it kind of reminds me of me and my younger sister. Because I've never been in her shoes before. I never had an older sibling to look up to. And it was nice to see that how Lily interacts with her older sister because I was never Lily. I was always Margaret. And I just like to see how what Lily thought of her older sister, how she was at times, because that reflects to me and my sister what my sister thinks about me and what.
Yeah, so good connections. Very good connections. Great connections.
This was a fabulous.
This was a lot of fun. I hope everybody had fun too.
Oh, I had a ball. I'm going to have them all back, Antoinette. And you better start writing.
This is a nice crew. This is a great crew.
Absolutely. And we're all dying for the next book. So I hope that you have your fingers all ready to go there.
Very good.
Terrific.
Very good. Great to see you guys. Everybody's so big now.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, it's funny because, like, I wouldn't usually read a book about 1911 because, like, I usually read books about World War II because I really think it's very interesting. Well, sad.
Sure.
But now that I've read this book, I realized that, like, I really like this time period. So it's really, like, opened up a horizon. And I wouldn't usually think to read about 1911, but now that I have, like, it's really been a good experience.
The best endorsement that we could possibly have is that somebody who didn't normally read this kind of thing, and I know Ryan normally reads science fiction, but he was reading it too, and that's a ringing endorsement, Antoinette.
Big
endorsement. Well, I can't thank all of you enough for being here, and I'm going to have to like grab you a million more times for things. Katie?
like like I like reading books about like this time period and like what like people did back then. So like really helped me understand like what like they did in like all these different
Ooh,
times.
very good. Yeah, yeah.
Fabulous. And Alex?
I have two things. I enjoyed reading this because normally I wouldn't read books back this far. Like
Mhm.
I'm around like the 70s, 60s, 50s type of reader. And I
Mhm.
would never think to look back this far, but I had a lot to relate to this story as well because I think it was my great grandmother that grew up in a Mott Street tenement.
All right.
And my mom wants to read the story too, so she's
Great.
very excited about reading it. And also this is just once, right? There's not gonna be every Monday.
No, no, it's just one time. One
Okay.
time.
Because
We're experimenting here.
I'm loving this. Have you back, that's for sure. Well, certainly, please share the book around. And Alex, don't worry, this will have to happen again because what a fabulous.
Okay, and we'll be pulling this together so that you can share it.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. And a huge round of applause for our author.
Well, and all my wonderful readers.
Oh, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, all of you. You were
Okay.
fabulous, and we will totally do this again with a new book soon.
All right, thank you, Stephanie.
You're very welcome. And everybody, please.
Good night, everybody. I hope you all get to eat
Bye, Miss
dinner.
Martin.
My whole family is reading.
Good night.
Take care.
YV.
Bye.
Take care.
ABY means after the Battle of Yavin. It's that Star Wars time right there.
Yep. Now.
Thanks for joining us on Between the Covers. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're an author who would be interested in appearing on our show, or perhaps you're a member of a book club, we do host book clubs as well, please visit BetweenTheCoversTV.com. By the way, at BetweenTheCoversTV.com, you can watch past episodes in addition to learning more about our authors and guests. So sign up there if you would like to be a guest on the show yourself. And if you have some books that you would like to get written or published, visit redpenguinbooks.com. Thanks so much for joining us.